Hi, I'm Mary Beck with Bernina of America. Welcome to Bernina Community Studio. Today we're going to get crafty with the new L860 Overlocker. I love that this machine has the one-step Bernina air threader to make threading a breeze. It also has a touch screen to make it easy to navigate to different stitches, customize and save stitches, and guidance through Creative Consultant to set up the perfect stitch for my project. We're going to use a 3-thread overlock stitch and some decorative thread to embellish strips of Kraft-tex. Then we're going to weave the strips into baskets. And I have several here. This is the one we're going to make, and I'm going to talk to you later about how to make that wired ribbon. And then I have some different colors with different embellishments that I'll talk about. And then I even have some in some different shapes. At the end, I'm going to show you how to make serger cord to use as an additional detail to the basket. Doesn't it look cute with these beads? And finally, I'm going to introduce you to the cording foot. So let's talk about Kraft-tex. If you haven't played with this stuff yet, now's your chance. It feels and wears like leather, but cuts, sews, and washes like fabric. You can sew, embroider, paint, stamp, emboss, all sorts of things with this fiber product. The natural colors of Kraft-tex are flat, such as this brown. To get a textured surface, you just wash, dry, and press according to the directions on the package. But I have fallen in love with these pre-washed, hand-dyed colors. They look and feel like leather already. You can use your regular rotary cutter and scissors when working with the Kraft-tex. But if you're going to do a lot of Kraft-tex work, you may want to designate a specific cutter and pair of scissors to use. As far as a needle, I had great success using the size 90-14 ELX needle. The decorative thread we're going to use is Spaghetti by Wonderfil. This is a 12-weight cotton thread that we're going to thread in the upper looper of the overlocker. Now you can buy these in individual colors, but I really like these sets with all sorts of colors because I like to have choices at my fingertips. Now Wonderfil also makes a variegated one, and it's called Fruity. You can also try other decorative threads. Now this basket here uses Wonderfil Razzle. It's a rayon thread and a little slippery, so I found a thread net very helpful to control the release of the thread off of the spool. I would say that if this is your first time using decorative thread in your overlocker, to use the cotton spaghetti thread first. But let me show you some other threads that I tried out. This is a variegated thread. This is the Wonderfil Fruity, so again, it's a 12-weight cotton, or 12-weight cotton thread. And you'll see that I've written some notes to myself, and I'm going to save these strips, so if I want to use these threads on a future project, I already have some notes. So that's the variegated. This sample is using the Wonderfil Spaghetti Solid in the 12-weight. Now, when you're seeing my settings, this is going to vary. You're going to want to test your machine to see what works best for you. And then on this sample, I used the Wonderfil Razzle. It's a rayon thread, and you'll notice I made a note to myself that I'm going to be circumventing the threading nozzles and that I am using a thread net. I had some Pearl Crown rayon in my stash, so I gave that a try, and I was pretty happy with how that worked as well. Then finally, I had some metallic thread, and this is also a Wonderfil thread called Glamour, and that was really pretty and easy to work with too. So the sky's the limit. Dig into your thread box and see what decorative threads you have to put on your basket. Now, as far as your other threads that you're going to use, you will want some plain thread to go into your needle and your lower looper that matches the Wonderfil. I'm using Isocord thread because I seem to have the widest range of colors to choose from in that department, but you can use sewing or serger thread too. And it doesn't have to be an exact match, it just needs to be close. So let's get started. Let me clear out my area a little bit and show you what we did. You'll take your Kraft-tex and you're going to cut 12 2-inch strips the width of the roll. And that generally runs about 18.5 to 20 inches. So just set up your ruler and rotary cutter and you're going to cut your strips just like that. It's very easy to cut. Now we're using 11 strips in the basket, but I suggest cut 12 strips just in case. It's always nice to have that extra. And then cut a couple more and cut them in half to use for your testing. And what we're going to do is we are going to be folding these in half. And to make it easy, we're going to be using this tool here. It's called a Hera marker, and it's perfect for creasing. It's got this sharp, well, not a super sharp, but it's sharp enough so that we can get a crease mark. And if you've done paper crafting, you're familiar with that sort of a thing. So I'm going to line up my ruler halfway and just make a crease. And I don't know if you can see a little bit, you can see that crease mark in there. Now you can also use this tool on fabric because it's not going to leave a residue and make a crease mark on your fabric. Now then, we need to fold this in half. So you'll just fold it on that score line. And I like using the Clover roll-in press to fold that down. It's a lot easier than using my fingers. And there we have it all folded over. Now you're probably wondering, well, what if I just use a single layer of Kraft-tex? So let me show you a basket that I did with that and compare it to one that is double. So this basket is a single layer, and you can tell it's just a little more flexible. It doesn't feel as sturdy as this one with the double layer of Kraft-tex. And I kind of preferred the sturdier feel, so that's what I did for making my baskets. But of course, the choice is up to you. You can get more baskets out of a roll of Kraft-tex if you do a single layer. But I think you'll like the sturdier double layer better. Okay, so let's get our machine set up. We are going to be setting it up for a 3-thread overlock stitch, which is stitch number 3, using the left needle. We're going to put the 12-weight spaghetti thread in the upper looper and isocord thread in the left needle and lower looper. So let's go ahead and thread the machine. Now remember, with our air threading Berninas, it doesn't matter which order we thread the needle and loopers in. So I'm going to start with the left needle. My presser foot is up. And I'm following the yellow thread path. Okay, and once we get to the needle, we do have a built-in needle threader. We just need to adjust it so that the yellow is showing in the window for the left needle. And pull that through. And we're threaded. The presser foot is a swing out presser foot, so it's easy to turn it to the side and take your thread out of the way. And then I'm going to set up for the air threading. So I'm going to turn the nozzle to connect the pipes. And then this is activated by pressing on the foot control. And I'm going to start with the 12-weight thread going into the upper looper. And there it is. Wasn't that quick and easy? And then we'll go ahead and thread the lower looper in the same way. And with the L860, you just have to get the thread close to the threading nozzle and it goes right through. Turn that off, put the foot back in position, and get everything ready to go. Now you may want to tweak your machine settings a little bit. This is why we do a test sew. So let's go ahead and do a test sew and see how things look. I am going to attach the right seam guide, and I am setting it up so that, I don't know, on your foot, when you look at your machine, there'll be a little notch on the right side of the foot that's even with the blade. And that's where I want the seam guide to be, because I don't want to cut the Kraft-tex as I am serging it. Then I'll take the folded piece and start sewing. And that was really nice. Let me show you what that looks like here. The goal is to have the seam to lay flat. Now I could have tightened up my stitches to make that more of a satin stitch, but I really liked the Kraft-tex peeking through, so I actually increased my stitch length to 3. I also increased my presser foot pressure to 6. Now when working with the 12-weight thread, you may want to decrease the upper loop retention and increase the lower loop retention. So that's why you're going to test. And if you're really not sure how to adjust it, that's when you're going to go to your machine and you're going to use your stitch optimizer and you're going to scroll until you get to the picture of what your stitch is looking like and then select, and it's going to give you suggestions on how to correct it. That is a feature I really love on the L860 because sometimes I just don't know how I'm going to correct that stitch. All right, so go ahead and stitch all of your strips of Kraft-tex. Oh, and once they're done, I should mention this is really important. We have the ability to save our stitches. So when you have the stitch the way you like it, if you go to your heart menu and touch the folder with the heart and touch the stitch, and I'm going to call this Kraft-tex. And here I have the opportunities to adjust my manual settings, and I know I had increased my presser foot pressure, so I'll go ahead and tell the machine that's what I want to do. And now it's saved in my permanent memory, so I can go and open it, and here it says my 3-thread overlock for Kraft-tex. So when I want to make more baskets in the future, everything's all set up and ready to go. And another tip, you'll want to sew at a moderate speed, particularly when working with decorative threads. All right, so now we've got all of our strips sewn. And we're going to get ready for the fun part, which is the weaving. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take 8 strips and mark them in the center with a pencil. I really like the bone mechanical pencils because I don't have to worry about looking for a pencil sharpener to get a nice sharp mark. So this strip is about 19.5, so just a little shy of 10. And we're going to put a mark there. And I'm doing this on the wrong side. So once I've marked one strip, I can just kind of line it up with the same one. So mark 8 strips on the back. This is going to help you center your weaving. So this will get us started here. All right. So I've got 4 strips laying in front of me, and I have the decorative thread facing down and the decorative edges all going in the same direction. Then I'm going to take 2 more strips, and these are going to be going vertical, laying this way. And you see how I've got the center mark lining up between the center 2 strips here. And I'm going to just weave 1 strip on either side of the center. So you guys are probably familiar with weaving, where we go over and under. So on this side, we've got it going like this, and then on the other side, you want to do it opposite. Like so. Do you kind of get how that's going to start? Now, I do like to glue these in place, and because I'm an impatient person, I like to use hot glue because that's going to dry a lot faster. So I will just raise up a strip, put a drop of hot glue there, and just hold it for a minute. If you like, you can take a Wonder Clip and hold that in place, but it does dry very quickly. We'll put another one here. And I can lift that one up. There, I told you we were getting crafty today. And just as a reminder, hot glue is hot, so you'd want to try to avoid putting your fingers in it. All right, so that's basically how we do the first set of that. Then we're going to take 2 more strips. I've got one here to show you. We're going to put one here and one here to finish out the base. So I have one already completed. That looks like this. So on the bottom, you can see my decorative thread, and this is in the inside. And I call this a 4x4 base because I've got 4 strips going in each direction. All right, so I'm going to warn you the next part is the fiddly part because now we're going to be weaving strips to give us the shape of the basket. We're going to be using 3 strips and going 3 strips up. I like to take my first strip and do kind of a test weave first of all, just to make sure everything is going to go the way it wants to. And I do start so that the beginning of the strip is going to be on the inside of the basket. And I do know this is going to make it all the way around, but I always just like to make sure. And if you want, you can take your strips and kind of crease them a little bit like so. And I am going to grab a clip just to hold this in place for a moment. And you're just going over and under, all the way around. So we'll just get that all in place. And so it's good to check as you're going because you might miss one. And I always like to double check before I'm finally done and gluing. And that goes around like so. So I know that I am going to make it all the way around. As you get ready to actually do the weaving and set it in place, you want to have it snug to the bottom. So I like that. And then this is where it's getting fiddly because I've got all these things hanging around at the top. So I'll put a clip just to kind of hold them in place so that I'm not fighting them. So we'll just get that set up like that. And I'll grab my scissors because I do have a little bit of an overlap coming. But I know at the beginning that this is going to be good, so I'm going to grab my glue gun, put some glue there. And I'm going to hold this with the clip as I'm going around. And the corners are where you might want to put a little clip. Keep it snug. And as with any project, the first one you make is the one that's going to be the little more challenging one, but as you make more of them, this just becomes really easy to do. And I'm back to the beginning, and I see that I don't know if you can see inside. Let's go to the close-up camera. You can see I have more than I need, so I'm going to trim some of that off. And the glue should be dry there, so now I can put a drop of glue there. And put that in place. And then I will hold that with a clip while I go around with the next one. So do you get the idea of how that goes around? I did make sure that my decorative thread is on the outside and all the decorative thread edges will be facing up. So that's one, and the first one is the trickiest one. You'll have 2 more rows to go around, and then your basket is going to look like this, and you're going to be almost done. So now we have to take care of the tops. And what I did was every other strip, the ones that were on the outside, they are going to be folded down to the inside and woven to the inside part. So let me get to the close-up camera again so that you can see where I am going with that. So here's the top, I'm folding down, I'm looking inside, and right down in there, looking over my shoulder makes this kind of interesting to do. Let's see. the bottom. You can see that strip right there. That's where it's going to tuck in. So I'm going to measure, and it's a little long, so I'm going to trim some of that off. And I'll tuck it in, and then I'll show you what I did. And you can see how I tucked it in down there. And if you want to put a drop of glue in there, you can do that as well. So you're going to go all around the basket. And now I already know I'm going to have to trim some of that off. And I'm just doing all the opposite ones. I get one side done so you can see where we're going. All right. So we have these that are coming up and folding over the top of the basket, but we have these two that are on the inside, and I want to fold those down inside the basket as well. You could, if you wanted to, fold them over and tuck them in, but remember we didn't use decorative thread in the lower looper, so that's what's going to show. So if that's how you're going to want to do your basket, you need to plan ahead and put a decorative thread in both loopers. I was happy just to fold it down on itself, and it's actually the second row I'm going to tuck in. So I'm going to trim off a little bit more. Let me tuck it in and I'll show you. So that we can look in the close-up camera again. So I have tucked it down. Getting the light on there, right in there. But I do have this flap happening. So back to the glue gun, drop a glue, and just hold it in place like that and put a clip. Now the hot glue has worked out really well for me. I've made all of those baskets probably 2 months ago and put the glue on, and it's held it very nicely, so I've had no worries about that. So you're just going to go all the way around until you're done. And this is what your basket's going to look like. And let me get a shot inside so you can see how that looked. Now you might see like some strips ran a little short and I couldn't tuck them under, and I just put a drop of glue on there. Okay, so that's basically your basket. You've made a cute little basket out of Kraft-tex on your overlocker. So come back in a moment and let me show you some great ideas for embellishing. All right, so here are some embellishment ideas for your basket. On this basket, I took some ribbon after the basket was completed and wove it through, and it gave a nice detail to the basket. Then for the purple one, I went into my button jar, and I collect buttons, and maybe you do too, and every once in a while you find those unusual buttons that you save for the just right project, and I just glued it on here. And then for this basket, I made the serger cording, and that's what I'm going to show you how to make and how to put the beads on. So to make serger cording, we are going to use the 3-thread rolled hem stitch, stitch number 8. And I've already set up the machine to do that. All I had to do was move the needle from the left position to the right position and select stitch number 8. Now the secret to a nice serger cord is to use a slight tension as you pull the thread to the back of the machine. If you pull too fast, it's going to look lacy, which if that is the look you want, that's what you're going to do. But if you do it just like an even tension to pull it to the back, that will give you some great cording. So let me show you how. And that should be enough for right now. So let's take a close-up look at that. Okay, so where I have got, still have the 12-weight cotton thread in the upper looper and the isocord in the needle and the lower looper. Now, what some folks do when they're making lots of serger cord is they actually turn their machine around and they stand in the back and press on the foot control and pull the cord. So, but we didn't have to do that for what we were doing today. I wanted to show you a couple of other cords. This one is made out of the razzle, and I pulled a little harder, a little faster on it, so you can see it's got a little bit of a lacy look. And then this one, I added some glamour thread in the mix. And if you look really carefully, you can see a little bit of sparkle in there. So this is a chance to play and get the look that you want. This size of a serger cord is great in garments if you need to make, instead of a buttonhole, you're just making a button loop to hold the button. Very easy to do on the overlocker. So if you make about 3 yards of the cord, that will be enough to go on the basket. And then got a dental flosser here, and I wanted to show you how you could thread that. So I've got a little bead that you can get at the craft store, and thread this through, and then grab the end of your cord. And put it through the loop here. And pull it through. So now you've got the bead, and then tie a knot at the end, and that will keep the bead from falling off. And then you can just trim that, and that's how you can keep the beads on. So lots of fun. I did a lot of strings of beads here, and I'll put it under the close-up again so you can see where I put it under. I just wove it underneath one of the strips, tied a knot with all the beads. So that's how you can make serger cord. But I'd like to show you a foot. And that is the L17 cording foot. And the L17 is the cording foot for the 850 and the L860. The L890 also has a cording foot, and it is C17. So if you want to add cording to a project, say on the edge of a napkin or a hem, this is the foot you're going to want to use. It's also great for serging in fish line, and I have some of that. And I've got some tulle, and here's some fish line. So it's kind of a hard to see. Can you see how that is? And you guys are probably familiar with the fishing line, but when you put it in tulle, it kind of it finishes the edge and gives it a little shape, and very easy to do. But what I did with this foot is I made wired ribbon. So here is a close-up of the ribbon. You're probably familiar with wired ribbon. You can buy it at the craft store on the spool. But this way I can make ribbon to match exactly what my project is going to be. And I've got wire encased on both sides, and now I can shape it to the way I want it to be, just like on this bow. So let me show you how that's set up. First of all, I am going to set the machine up for a 2-thread rolled hem, which is stitch number 13. Okay, so we're back at the machine, and I'm going to select stitch number 13, which is the 2-thread, rolled hem. Take my presser foot pressure back to 4. I had already brought my rolled hem selection lever to the back. The machine is telling me to make sure I have the right needle in. And all the tension settings are set up for me. I just need to thread I'm going into the lower looper. So we'll move the thread to there. And the thread I am using is Wonderfill Soft Block. It's got a little bit of a fluffiness to it so that it fills in nicely on your rolled hem edges. Oop, and there it goes. Now because this is a 2-thread stitch, I do have to install the upper looper converter, and that's in place. So we are ready to go. So we'll close everything up. And then let me show you how the wire goes into the foot. I am using a 26 gauge wire that I got at the craft store. I did buy this kind of wire at the hardware store, and there was just a little bit of a difference in it. It felt heavier, so I would recommend going to your craft store to get the wire. Now on the foot, there are a series of guides. So you've got a hole here that the wire is going to go through here. and it's going to go down under the foot, and then on the underneath part of the foot is a groove where it's going to feed through. You want to use these guides. They keep your wire or your fish line or your cord, whatever you're feeding through there, away from your needle and your knife blade. And it's very easy to set up. So I'm going to put it through here. Give yourself a length and poke it underneath. Whoops. Actually, there's a guide right here, and that will fit. So I don't know if you can see. It's going all the way under. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach the foot to the machine. So we'll take off the L10 standard foot that we were using. And attach this. It is easier to get the wire into the foot before you attach it to the machine. All right. The other thing you're going to want to do is give yourself a length of wire to the back. We don't have, because there's, as it's feeding through, the machine wants to sort of pucker the fabric a little bit. And if you get it puckered and then you go to straighten it out, if you don't give yourself a nice long length of wire at the back, you could totally have the wire not be all along your ribbon. The fabric I'm using is a batik. I have starched it with some best press. I like using batiks because both sides are right and I don't have to worry about that part. So we will just position this under here and get it started. And I am pulling on the wire a little bit. So I'm holding on the wire in the back and the wire in the front and guiding it through. And I'm just trimming a little bit off. And once I've gotten past the beginning, I can hang on to both the wire and the fabric. Oops. And I'm feeding the wire a little bit, and then after you get some through, you'll have to unspool some. And we'll just go to the edge. But those guides are definitely keeping the wire out of the way of my needle and out of my blade. Now when you get to the end, you don't want to use your scissors on the wire. So you want to have a set of wire cutters, just little ones, and snip the wire, and then you can cut the thread. All right, and you see how the thread has covered up that wire and how easily now you've put some shape to your fabric. What I did on this piece, oh, I didn't do it. I'm going to show you what I did. To give the little bit of a V shape, I am going to nip the wire there and there. Then go with my scissors and cut a V. Unless you have some craft scissors, this wire will cut pretty easy with some craft scissors. Don't use your good fabric scissors. So you get that done, then you'll grab your fray block and put a little bit there and let it dry, and your ribbon will be complete. Now, if you would like some more detailed instructions on how to create wire-edged ribbon, I would ask you to go visit our blog, which is wealso.com, and in the search, put in DIY wire-edged ribbon. And Jamie will give you all sorts of tips and tricks to make fabulous wire-edged ribbon. So I hope you've enjoyed learning how you can be crafty on your overlocker. And until next time, happy serging.